Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolfork. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together. And welcome to a special edition of the Black Women Stitch Please podcast. Black Women Stitch, as you know, is the sewing group where Black Lives Matter, and the Stitch Please is the official podcast of Black Women Stitch. And I am honored, thrilled, delighted, and super happy to have a super crew of amazing folks from the Black Women Stitch community. And so what you have here on this podcast recording is a special episode of basically what we tend to do just on Tuesdays and Thursdays now, thanks to the Ronas, thanks to the corduroy, we get together on Zoom twice a week. And on Tuesday, it's Taco Tuesday. And then on Thursday, it was bra making, and we sewed bras. And then I think we have a pair of pants coming up. I forgot what the next thing was. Was it a strapless bra? It was some pattern we were supposed to get so we could sew that together. I forgot which one it was. But we've got 12 people on the call, so just relax and imagine. This is not like a typical one-on-one interview that I do or a solo episode with just me talking. This is me with 11 other amazing women from the Black Women Stitch community, just talking about this is what community looks like. So I was moved to do this episode because I just wanted to let people know that there are other options possible, and that I kept seeing so many Black women who felt, as I did 2 years ago, really harmed by, 3 years ago now, really harmed by the racism in the sewing community. That I was a person who was deeply involved in a bunch of different sewing groups and groups on Facebook and craft groups and all of this stuff. And I had convinced myself that these were places that I could just concentrate on crafts, right? And yet it felt like every other day, some racist in that group was posting something horrible, right? And so it became quickly apparent to me that racism flourishes in groups that are predominantly white unless there's deliberate steps to make it different. And none of the groups that I was in was trying to make it different. And so it wasn't until after my own experience with white supremacist terrorist violence and surviving that experience, and then getting such horrible feedback from the white women that I had believed to be my compatriots in the sewing or quilting community, that I was like, I can't do this anymore. And there's no reason why I should. Like, I do not have to sacrifice my full humanity in order to do something I enjoy. And so that's when I started Black Women Stitch. I think we have a birthday coming up, everybody. The Black Women Stitch birthday. I looked it up. I had to scroll back really far. I wrote it in my calendar. And I think the Black Women Stitch birthday is, I don't know, July? Or is it June, like Juneteenth? Probably not. Wouldn't that be perfect, though? I don't remember. It's in June or July. And we'll be, now I'm about to get hazed because I'm not good at math. But we'll be 2 years old. 2 years old in 2020. Because I started the group in 2018. And we had our first live in-person event in 2019, and then another one in 2019, and then one in 2020. And then we had all these plans for more in 2020, 2021. And then the corduroy came, and now no one gets to have any fun. But we do find a way to stay together via Zoom, which is giving us a chance, as I'm recording the audio, to connect and get together. And we've done that pretty regularly. So I just wanted to let folks know and give you a bit of an inside slice of life inside Black Women Stitch, and to talk with some people here who are with us about the group itself and what I don't know. I just feel like I learned so much from everybody. And I think that we're also different from different places and different kind of sewing we like to do. But one of the things that I love that we have in common is that we care about each other. And this is something that I have really cherished and appreciated. I wanted to make sure to have a group of folks who, I mean, I think that my basic rule was I would never again sew with people who did not believe that Black Lives Matter. I refuse to do it. And this gives me and on top, and that's just the bare minimum. What I have instead is this amazing constellation of Black women who are so gifted and so talented and so generous with their time and their resources and their energy. And, you know, I don't know. And so I'm not going to start crying yet, but it just feels like it's just been a real blessing to my life. And it's just been so encouraging for me to see that the thing that I needed so badly was I could build that. And it's something that was powerful and helpful and useful for other people too. And I have been very firm in this idea about Black Women Stitch and about how we proceed. And it's just worked out so beautifully. And I'm so glad that you all are here. Lots of people are on mute. You can't see them, but they're all like smiling and someone's about to fall out the chair. And someone's walking their dog. But they're all here smiling and waving. And there's also a chat that you cannot see. And people are, there is kikiing going on. You can't hear it because they're all on mute. But I just wanted to, open the floor and see if anybody has, I just read the chat, and see if anyone has anything to add about Black Women Stitch, or if you had any advice that you might want to give to Black women, who might be listening to the podcast. I'm telling you.
All of this is the evidence of our non-behaving selves. Like, this is us. Welcome.
Find a bunch of women that you can laugh with. That would be my advice.
Yeah, some women you can laugh with. Absolutely. Absolutely.
With the standard model. The standard model didn't come with behavior. That was an upgrade.
Yes.
So did you really expect us to live up to that wonderful introduction?
You live up to it every day. I mean, honestly, I think it's just been so it's just such an amazing community. I think it really helped me to shift my thinking about sewing education, about how we have access to materials. I had my entire sewing life, I had been surrounded by white people. I thought that they had the information, and if I wanted the information, I had to go where they were, and that's not the case at all. Like, poor Quinora and Dewan tried to show me how to grade a pattern. And they were like, oh, well, let's see. If you just plug in your, put your curve here and you do that. I do continue to be harassed by them over this topic of me and the challenge.
The titty drop.
And the
titty drop. It's an important measurement to have. I mean, you need to know it.
Oh.
It is true. It is true. But all of these little things, or like Jill, like you telling me, like, measure your body in quarters. I was like, what? That's genius.
Alicia actually told you that.
Oh, sorry.
I think that was Alicia.
I learned it from Jill, though, because I'm one to just get in there and start cutting up stuff. And my motto is, if it don't fit, just serge it out. And so I will be in there serge or fitting in a minute. So Jill's the one that actually does the math and stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, you could do that on the front end.
And which one of you all also told me that if I had anxiety about measurements, to put them in centimeters.
Yeah.
I don't know what well, you know me, I don't hardly know what inches are either, but centimeters, there's no like judgment because I don't know what the sense. So I thought that was also very clever, like a little mind trick. So,
yeah. So can I, okay, you know, somebody got stars. Wait, is this a family show?
Oh, I can click the explicit if you want to say bad words, but I say bad words all the time. Or
I was going to say, it's not so much that I want to, I think it's just,
don't worry about
that's just how I talk. But in the interest of starting some shit early, I would say that one, thank you for that lovely introduction. It's a beautiful thing to hear yourself being seen that way. I just wanted to drop the notion that we are exceptional somehow. I mean, this group is absolutely talented. It is absolutely, you know, I mean, the women in here are stunning. But the idea that this coming together is somehow exceptional is belied by Black women every single day in every single place. Mm-hmm. Like, we are as regular to one another and as normal in our support of one another as anything. And I think that the fact that other people don't know that is, I mean, that is what it is for them, but Black women know that. And I think that I don't know, something in me feels like that needs affirming. Like, it feels like it is important to affirm that, like, from the top.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, thank you.
I wouldn't use the word exceptional, but I feel like we don't always give ourselves permission to create our own spaces. And instead, far too often, we feel like we have to soldier on in these other environments that are not welcoming to us. Mm-hmm. And at least for me, it was hard to find. I mean, I think most other Black women sewists who had experiences like Lisa, and I've had them too, at least for me, I just went in the house and did my own thing by myself. And I found that other sisters were doing the same thing, so it was hard to find each other. Yeah. And so it was actually Naomi who told me about this, and I went back and forth, and she said, just do it. And I thought, well, you know, at the time, my work life was horrible, so I thought, well, yeah, it'd be nice to be in community with some other Black women. So jumped in the car and drove to Virginia. And I think it was one of the best gifts that I gave to myself. And so I hope that what people hear is that, you know, you don't need anyone's permission. You don't have to soldier on. You can choose to create a space that's welcoming for yourself. And so gather up your sister circle and go do it.
Yeah. That's great.
Thank you for that. See, smart people can say it better.
You said it great too. And you know what? This is one of the reasons that I feel like I knew. Also, this is Jill. There was Deborah who just spoke and Jill who's speaking now. It's just like, I think that we also had this energy that we want this to go well, because one of my first memories of Jill was when she called me. Like, I had put out the call on Instagram for the retreat, and she called me and she was like, I just want to talk a bit about, you know, your plans. And are you sure you're charging enough? Are you sure about this and about that? And I was like, yeah, I think it's going to be great. I got grant funding. I've got this, I've got that. And I was just like, this lady, I don't even know. She called me because she wanted this to be okay. And she didn't want my shit to be raggedy. And I think that was so nice. And, you know, I don't know. I just feel like I definitely, and I organized this entire project on Instagram. All of it was through social media. All of it was through finding Black women that I had seen on, at least for the first Beach Week retreat in the in March of 2019 was a lot of work that was done in the fall of 2018. And that was me looking at accounts, sending personal notes, sending larger messages, having an intake form to make sure people were on the same line in terms of values. Like, look, this is, I haven't really put it into firm words, but this is like this is like, oh, hi, Aisha's waving. Yes. We can't hear you. Wrong microphone. And so like I went through the Google Doc, I went through like all of this thing to try to help, get folks, just so I could tell, because you can't tell, how things are going to go. You don't know. And so that was...
Sorry. I'm just going to wait now because I clearly had to use the whole microphone.
Y'all, but Aisha was trying to jump in front of the line, and then she got in the front of the line and she started talking and no sound came out, even though I actually personally gave her a microphone this afternoon.
Oh, the shade.
Obviously,
no shade.
Very well. It's okay. I love the shade. It helps my skin.
Shade. I thrive in shade.
I thrive in the shade. So yeah, I was going to say something about your intake form and the intentionality of it, of how like it is not a surprise that so many of us are on the same page about what is needed. I've met other Black women who are not on the same page like this group is. That they're just like, they're very white affirming, white is right. They're very about respectability politics, and they're very in support of all kinds of foolishness. And that is not what I come here for. But I knew that from the intake form, right? From the intake form that I was filling out, it was like, Black Lives Matter. Here's what we're not going to have in this group. We're not going to have no homophobia, no biphobia, no fat phobia. Don't start it. Don't try it. I love that intake form. As I was going through it, I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Because you are making sure there is none of the foolishness.
Yep. This isn't a person who's going to be inviting people to the cookout. I am here. Like, yes, that's the group that I want to be in.
Yeah, I had the same experience when I got the intake form. I showed it to my husband and he was like, she needs to know all that for y'all to go to the beach? And I was like, it's more than that. This is way more than just us going to the beach and sewing. And he was like, all right, she asking a lot. I was like, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because, it was my first time. So I was like, well, if I'm going to spend a whole week with people, I want her to know who she's getting, and I want to know that everybody else that's there has gone through this as well. Mm-hmm. So there'll be no foolishness. Yeah. So I'm with you, Aisha. I enjoyed the intent of the intake form as well.
Yeah. And shout out to Alicia, who helped me revise the intake form from the first retreat to the second. I think I made some changes between the Beach Week form and the Stitch Please form and so just these, again, this kind of collaborative spirit. It also really helped me. So like when people would ask a question, I would say a simple question, how do you racially identify? And somebody wrote human. And I was like, well, I'm not picking you. So
you have,
but even when somebody says, is my internet jacked up again?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. Even when there was a situation where somebody answered in just the right way to the intake form and they showed up and proved themselves to be something other than what we expected, she got 86.
Let me put my mute button on. Let me put my mute button on.
No, don't put your mute button on. What's happening?
Yes, because the space
proved themselves to be outside of who we were expecting, who we all showed up to be. They were identified as harmful and removed. And like, how wonderful is that?
And I feel like Black women and our peace is worth defending. It's worth preserving. And I think that everyone kind of agreed to that when we all try to come together. We can recognize if there was a problem. There's ways to try to intervene in that in conversation and whatever. But I mean, our time is precious and it's limited. And I just can't, yeah, that was unfortunate. But also, you know, kind of necessary. So now we have a precedent. Oh,
it's normal.
And we lived and learned.
Yeah. Like that's a normal thing. I think that's probably what I was trying to impress maybe earlier on, was that like Black women in support of one another, Black women in support of healthy boundaries and a wonderful, healthy space with one another is not like normalizing that is, I don't know, it's a powerful part of being in community, and it is in and of itself a normal and regular thing. And that is powerful.
Yes.
I think that's demonstrated what Jill was just saying, and also what Naomi was saying, of the person who hit the right levers on the form to show up, but it was readily apparent that they weren't a right fit, is even more so demonstrated that now we are at this makeup of group that is over the course of 3 different events. And thinking about the first event, so the first Black Women's Beach Week retreat, and it was the 10 of us, and we had this like, man, this is like lightning in a bottle, that we like, there wasn't really an agenda. Nobody came in with any expectations because this thing did not exist. We had not met each other before. We had limited connection on the polos, but because we didn't know each other and we're just trying to get stuff done to be ready to be at the beach for a week, weren't connecting in a bunch of different ways, and that there was no drama, no problems. And we just had a wonderful time at the beach. And we're like, but for real, we got to go home now? we have to go home? Like, we aren't just going to stay in this beach paradise. But then you had the second retreat, Stitch Please, that some of us didn't get to come to, new people added, and then second beach week, and now new people added. And we have this group, and I'm looking at the faces that I get to see, and it's people from all 3 of those events, but there's no difference. Like, when we're together, it's not like, oh, well, you're from that group, so I don't fool with you no more.
Yeah.
And I think it proves what Jill was saying, that our community is not remarkable in the sense that it was just because we were at this one event that we are bonded, that we are like-minded and like-hearted people, and that we come from all these different places, and nobody had to give us a script or an agenda for that to be true.
That's right. That's beautiful. Thank you. I saw Katrina's hand here, in her little blue hand.
Yes. So I want to go back to the form. So I had actually just started back sewing, and I had no work-life balance. And so my therapist suggested to me that, hey, why don't you do something that you enjoy doing? I had no idea who you were, Lisa. I don't know how I ended up following you. And so when I got the form, when I found out I was accepted, I screamed like I had got into when I got into the college I wanted to get into. I called my mom. I called my family. I'm like, I get to go to the beach with 9 other ladies I don't know, but it's going to be fun. I knew I had found my tribe when I went. So this was during the first beach week, and we would have dinners together, every evening. And, everybody's talking about their stories and their experiences. I knew I had found my tribe when I told you guys about my coworker who told me or said something to me about my hair being nappy. And I was like, oh, what? We all had similar weird questions from the white people, asking us crazy ass questions that I don't think they would ask each other about hair. And that this story was kind of funny, but then it was also the compassion of, oh, Katrina, I'm so sorry that you have to experience, this in your work life. So I am very grateful to this group.
And I am very grateful to us having the polos where I can come on and vent like almost every other day about my wonderful work experience.
Katrina, can you say more about, I know you didn't mention this, but can you say more about your plan? About the plan that when you came to the first beach week, you weren't sure, but you had convinced yourself of an exit strategy. She had an exit strategy. I know. So y'all, for the recording,
tell the truth, please. Tell the truth.
Everybody is muted and everybody's laughing and cackling right now because we all know what Katrina's exit strategy
was not there for us.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Tell the whole truth, please.
She came, she paid her money, she got her flight, she got a rental car, she got her stuff, she was driving down to the beach. And tell them about your strategy.
So I had decided, I'm like, okay, this sounds like fun. And I received several warnings that, just concerned people, you're getting ready to go. And I did have some level of concern because I knew nobody. I didn't know anyone at all. And they're like, you're going to go and stay in a beach house with 9 other people you've never met in life. I'm like, yeah.
You're listening to the Stitch Please podcast, and we have a special episode today called Sis, I See You. And this is essentially a 12-way conversation with members of Black Women Stitch talking about what community looks like. So stay tuned, and we'll be back. The Stitch Please podcast is really growing. We have recently hit 30,000 downloads. That is a huge deal for a small podcast that is totally independently funded and unsponsored and just a labor of love. I want to thank you for listening to the podcast and ask a favor. If you are listening to this podcast on a medium that allows you to rate it or review it, for example, Apple Podcasts or iTunes, please do so. If you're enjoying the podcast, if you could drop me a 5-star rating, if you have something to say about the podcast and you wanted to include that, a couple sentences in the review box of Apple makes a really big difference in how the podcast is evaluated by Apple, how it becomes more visible. It really is a way to kind of lean into the algorithm that helps to rank podcasts. So if you had time to do that, to drop a little line in the review feature of the podcast, that would be really appreciated and it would help us to grow even further and faster. Stitch Please podcast. And we're talking today about Sis, I See You, about building a sewing community of Black women with women from Black Women Stitch. So we're talking about the retreats, and here's more.
I'm like, this was my strategy. The best thing was everybody had their own room. I had a rental car. And I'm like, if these women turn out to be crazy, I'll just lock myself in the room and use the rental car and go and see what there is to see. But y'all weren't crazy. Y'all aren't crazy. It was amazing.
Oh, I feel pretty good that Katrina never had to lock herself away in her room at any point or disappear for days on end, that we passed the test. So I feel really great about that. I know. Whew. I definitely feel good about that. But it's true. It's a lot of risks, and I definitely understand that. It certainly is. I didn't know anybody. And I think actually it's fun because I call my little boy. But Ryan, who is now not a little boy anymore, but he called on the second day of the retreat. I think he might have been 13 at the time. And he was like, "Mom, is your retreat fun? Are there any problems, Mom? Are you having any problems?" Like he had, and then Riley was like, "Mom, what if you invite people and nobody comes? What are you gonna do then? Are you gonna go to the house and say it by yourself? Mom." And I was like, "Gosh, why are you so pessimistic? It's gonna be fine." He's like, "I don't know, Mom. You're like meeting strangers on the internet and going places with them. I don't think you would approve if I did that. If I would do that, you wouldn't like that."
I think it was good.
I mean, well, I'll add, because I was new this year to the beach week, that, you know, my reservations just came from being new and knowing that you'd had a beach week before and that people were returning. And like, you know, I am not a person who when I'm put into a new situation is just one is going to be like, hey, my name's Shauna. How are you? What do you do? I am more of a sit back, observe what's going on, who's doing what kind of person. And so to come into that, like when you called me and asked me, I was like, hell yeah, I'm going. Because you said, I got one other person out. If they can't go, then you're good. And so like literally I was like, I hope that person don't go. I was like, I hope they don't go. So, but I was still like, I was still nervous about it because I had only met you twice at that point.
Right.
And had met no one else. And so I was just like, you know, what if I get here and I become so self-conscious with myself that I can't intermingle with these ladies. And then, you know, and so I had put a lot of pressure on myself. And from the moment I walked in the door, like I think Dewan and Sherry were there and you were there. And it was just like, hey girl, hey, what's going on? Hey, we're doing this. And I was like, oh wait, I don't even have to, I felt like I didn't even have to try. It just automatically happened and here we are, like literally from then, here we are. And I'm just like, it's hard to make friends as adults. And so the fact that, you know, I have made however many are there's 12 new friends is, you know, it means the world to me. And then the fact that, you know, we are in this community together as Black women, we are in this community together in a hobby that's new to me. And the things that I learned from you ladies is amazing. And then the true sisterhood and friendship that is in this group. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I didn't have a good day at work, and Jill picked up her phone and called me and said, move away from the whites. And then she said, what do you need from us? She literally was like, what do you need from us? What can we give to you to help replenish you, to help refresh you? Nobody's ever asked me that. I mean, my husband's like, what you need? But nobody else, no other friend in my life has ever said to me, what can I give to you to help replenish you?
Yeah.
And that meant the world to me. Like, I was just like, who are these people? And how am I blessed enough to have just picked up a hobby and now I have these people in my life?
Yeah. I thank you so much for that. And also, I just have to add that I did not realize how nervous you were because on the last day, y'all, on Friday, we need to get out of the house by 11 o'clock. And I'm running around. I'm trying to do this and trying to do that. And I've put all my stuff on one table in the big room. And Shauna, who just spoke, she grabs my sleeve and says, Lisa, we need to be out of this house in 20 minutes. And so does your stuff. Let's go. And the next thing I know, all my stuff is out. They have moved. They have put it in the elevator. They put it on stairs. And I said, and this is what happens when you have a friend who's a project manager, because she managed the shit out of that. Let's pack this house up and get it back in the right order, according to the photos we took in the beginning. I mean, and everyone pitches in. And that was the thing that I just absolutely loved. And that was one of the concerns. I was like, I don't want to host a retreat where I'm the host and I don't get to sew or have any fun because I'm worried about what everybody else is doing. And I tried to set that up in the beginning that I'm also a paying participant. I want to have a good time. Everyone's responsible for the success of the event, blah, blah, blah. And everybody went with that. And everybody was like, okay. And everybody pitched in. And it was just so great and so unique. And it really is a beautiful example of like building what I needed that also happened to be helpful for other people. And I mean, I really do thank God for you all every day. Absolutely. And it's just, y'all are amazing.
It's a great experience. It's a great experience. I was a little opposite for the retreat itself. I had been on other retreats. So my treat was the form.
The form?
Really, it was like, what? Okay, right? Because other retreats, it was just, okay, show up. I think you're doing this and I think you're doing that. So the farm was a treat. I think, Lisa, you had told me a lot about it over the phone. We had a long conversation, so it wasn't a surprise.
Right.
And I felt honored because I had been invited to Stitch Please and I couldn't come.
Right.
And then when I got invited to the beach, I'm like, she remembered, right? Yeah, that was very cool. It's like, wow, okay. And so, Shauna, you're right. This is my first year also. You did not have to try. I didn't know anybody. Katrina, I got the same question from my mom. Like, well, who are you going to the beach with? Well, I really don't know. The lady named Lisa invited me. And all I know is we going to sew. And that's the thing about this group is, like, if you know how hard it is, Shauna, you just said it's hard for adults to make friends as adults, but it's hard for Black women to really come together at this level, unless you have something like sewing in common. And sewing it's a magical thread. No pun intended. It's just a magical thread. You can have a bunch of CPAs together. You can have a bunch of, whatever together in the same career.
I don't think CPAs are that fun.
No, they're not. None of them are. They do.
Mike and Juan and Quinora CPAs, they are not fun people. They're always harassing me about like math questions and whatnot and hazing me. I don't know, maybe anybody but CPAs, lawyers maybe.
Okay. Roller skaters.
Lawyers.
But
you know what? You know what?
Lawyers.
I'm just saying.
Ain't happening right now.
I know, right? It's cool and breezy under this shady tree.
Hey,
cool and breezy.
You didn't see what they did to me about that doggone pattern. You didn't see. I was trying to get my titty drop together. And I was trying to get blending my lines together to blend between sizes.
No, we saved your titties from the effects of gravity. You are welcome, friend. You are welcome.
And people don't have all that specialized knowledge about.
See what sewing does. See kind of conversation sewing. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody. This is And every Tuesday and Thursday, this is the part of my day that I look forward to. I'm like, okay, I got to get done. I got to get this done because in about 30 minutes is my time.
Yeah.
So, whether it's a retreat, whether it's a podcast, whether it's this or that, this is the stuff in the middle that is really important because this is where we all get vulnerable and we're able to be who we really are. And I love it. So thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nikki. Thank you for being with us. It's amazing.
I think that y'all were going to try to chop me up and bake me in a pie or something. Like I wasn't afraid of not really knowing anybody coming into this space. I was actually more concerned about alignment because I felt like I really just wanted to be around people who were not exactly like me. Mm-hmm. Because who wants that? but also, what comes with that is having a whole bunch of different personalities, and my patience for personalities it's fine. It's my face that needs deliverance. Like I can hold the space fine in my body, but my face cannot always hold it. And my mouth is even worse. And so I just felt really gifted with a number of women who are just, I mean, we're just different. Like everybody, like personality wise, I mean, even down to heights and body shapes. I don't think that there's even close to a duplicate among us. And I think that is wonderful. But that was the thing. I was like, all right, how much work is it going to take in order to, in order for this to feel like, a comfortable community space? And kind of like what Shauna was saying, it happened pretty straight off. It happened pretty straight off, which was lovely. It was lovely.
Yeah, I felt like when Deborah, bless Deborah's heart, because she got to my house to pick me up because she drove to Stitch Please, because we both live in the DC metro area. We got in the car and we were like, all right, what are we getting ourselves into? I don't know. We gonna go, and it's gonna be like, we'll just go and see. And when we got there, I don't know about you, Deborah, but when we walked into the room and it was set up and there was a space prepared for me, like it wasn't you can go in and grab your name tag and then find somewhere to set up. To get there, and there was already a space prepared for me, was like, this is different. There was a space and there were gifts. Like there was a bag and a cup and
with your name on it.
Like with my name on it. Oh my goodness. Like,
I'm telling you,
everything about it was considered. I felt like Lisa thought about every single person and wanted for every single person to have a positive experience. And that showed through every single detail. It's a wonderful thing to go into something and feel considered from the outset, not as opposed to being lots of circumstances. So that was like that from the outset let me know, like, okay, this is a little crazy, but it's gonna be okay. Like that I'm nervous about this feeling was gone within an hour. It was like, you know what? These might be my people.
I'm telling you, I worried Dewan and Katrina to death about every detail of Stitch Please. They were my planning committee, and I was calling them, texting them, Venmoing them, emailing them, poloing them. I was like, well, if I do this cup, then we can have this instead of the water glasses, then we can reduce plastics. But then what about the photo? And I mean, like, they were just like, girl.
Lisa had a Stitch Please polo committee set up. So every time she had a question before Stitch Please, we'd get on a polo and give opinions. And so...
Yeah, I worried them half to death. Like I would not leave them alone. Everything, every little thing. What about this? Oh, I found this. What about that? Yeah, I tried to keep some surprises for them too, but she
was like, Dewan, I don't think I'm gonna have enough for the grab bag. It won't be like the beach week. And I said, Lisa, if you have one item in the grab bag, it's enough. We're gonna have a great time. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about providing too much stuff. It's going to be fun. And it was.
You've been listening to the Stitch Please podcast, and we have a special 2-part episode today. This is part 1 of Sis, I See You, Black women in the sewing community that we've created in Black Women Stitch. I would like to thank Quinora, Tony, Deborah, Aisha, Dewan, Jill, Alicia, Katrina, Nikki, Naomi, Shani, Shauna, Sherry, Sierra, Sansere, and Candy. Thank you all for being the amazing, amazing women you are. And tune in next week, everybody, for part 2. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Stitch Please podcast, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. There are a variety of ways that you can support the program, and you're doing it right now. By listening to the podcast, it does help us grow. Another way to do that is to rate the podcast, review it, subscribe to it. All of these things are ways that you can support the podcast without having to spend any money at all. If you would like to spend some money to support us, there are ways to do that as well. You can make direct donations to our Patreon site for monthly contributions, as well as one-time contributions to PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. And finally, we have another cute, very adorable way for you to support the Black Women Stitch project. It's a pin, a PIN enamel lapel pin that's very cute. It's about 2 inches wide and 1.5 inch tall, and it's of the Black Women Stitch logo. And that is $15 with free shipping to the U.S. And so if you drop $15 in the PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App accounts, and then send me your email, no, not email, if you send me your mailing address to my email, either at blackwomenstitch@gmail.com, or you send me a direct message on the Black Women Stitch Instagram page, we will put the pin in the mail to you. Again, free shipping, $15 for the pin, and all of this goes to support the Black Women Stitch project. Thank you again for joining us this week. Come back next week and we will help you get your stitch together.